Hello, everyone. This is Jeannie Rosen, CSIA's Communications Director. Welcome to this month's CSIA webinar on bringing a commercial off-the-shelf software product to market. It's my privilege to introduce today's presenters. John Weber is President and founder of Software Toolbox. He has been working in the automation industry for 20 years and started Software Toolbox in 1996. He started Software Toolbox to solve a problem he saw when working for GE Fanuc and their distribution channels. Third-party add-in and accessory software products were not being given the attention, support, and infrastructure that was expected by customers to build successful, thriving product businesses. John has led his team to build Software Toolbox into the place the automation industry turns to find, evaluate, buy, and get world-class support for automation software products. John Nichols is the Managing Director of Apex Manufacturing Solutions and Apex Software Development. He is responsible for the strategic direction, business development, and factory widgets software project management at Apex companies. He brings more than 30 years of manufacturing automation and optimization experience to Apex clients. Having served in top executive positions at Wonderware Corporation, Incuity Software, and automation software distributor ISS Wonderware. Without further delay, here are John and John.
Thank you, Jeannie, and good morning, everybody. This is John Nichols, and we'll launch into our presentation. As soon as my mouse decides to do what I tell it to do. And the title is Part 1, Can a Tiger Change Its Stripes? The premise being that as systems integrators, we develop solutions for our clients that look like they have broad commercial possibility. Many of the vendors that we work with in our systems have gotten started that way, Wonderware being one, Modicon being one. So it's tempting to look at that grass on the other side of the fence that looks pretty green to see if we can bring a product to market in addition to the services we provide. So we'll talk about our experience in doing that with factory widgets. The agenda today is just a brief background on Apex and Software Toolbox, and why did a nice SI like you decide to get into the software business. We'll give a very quick overview of the product. This is definitely not meant to be an infomercial. It's just to give you an idea of what the product is and what it does and that it exists. We're going to talk about that for 3 minutes, and then we'll talk the rest of the time about what it takes to develop and bring a software product to market. We'll talk about commercial off-the-shelf software development and all the stuff you have to do besides develop the software. And as you can see from my pie chart there, that the vast majority of the work is not development. And then why did we team up with Software Toolbox? And some lessons that we have hopefully learned along the way and that we can share with you should you decide to take a trip down this kind of path. And to be continued with a question mark, we hope to be able to give you some follow-up information at the upcoming executive conference and towards the end of this year to see if there's a happy ending to be told here. A little bit about my company, Apex Manufacturing Solutions. My two partners founded the company in 2005. We are an end-to-end manufacturing services provider like many of you. In addition, to automation, integration, implementation, we do manufacturing consulting and business and reporting system integration as well. We've got a lot of experience on our staff. We are certified on Wonderware System Platform, and we are a Rockwell Information Solutions provider. We are an associate member of CSIA, and we are working towards certification this calendar year. And recently, we became an industrial commercial software developer. A little bit about my background. I started in the industry in 1975. I have to always remind my kids it's 1975. And I had a meteoric rise from the stockroom to the boardroom in my career. And I've spent a good share of my career in industrial automation sales distributor sales and sales management. I've worked for distributors. I've led their sales teams. I've owned distributors. I really understand that part of the market. And I've been associated with Wonderware in one form or another as a district manager, ran their sales and marketing for a while as a distributor, and now a systems integrator that uses their product extensively, and as a competitor. A few years ago, I joined Incuity in the early stages as their COO and helped them in the launch stage, and they have since become acquired by Rockwell, and their product that we used to call Incuity is now VantagePoint EMI. I joined Apex in 2007 to run their business development and became an owner shortly thereafter. And in 2009, we also decided to develop some commercial software. John, I'm going to turn this portion over to you.
All righty. Thank you, John. As Jeannie mentioned earlier, I started Software Toolbox in 1996. We're located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we also have a small office in the Denver region. We're heavily involved in the OPC Foundation in a lot of ways. Oops, not sure why that advanced. There we go. Because OPC was an enabling technology for the problem we set out to solve, because OPC as a standard allowed software in our industry from different vendors to actually work together without buying a $20,000 SDK and then spending that much or twice that much actually implementing it. I saw what that looked like in those days because I worked in this industry in the days before OPC. So we've been heavily involved there. Software Toolbox does also develop product. We have several products we've developed ourselves. We've also acquired two companies over our history that started out as developer partners of Software Toolbox, and then the owners decided they were ready for an exit from those businesses, and we acquired the products and technology and have taken them forward. We have over 10,000 clients in 100 countries and product in use on 7 continents. We're proud of the trivia that we have a copy of one of our products in the research station at the South Pole. Not something a lot of people can claim, so we're kind of proud of that little trivia. About me, I don't have any cool pictures of me in a 1975 suit, but I did start with GE Fanuc. I went through their commercial leadership program, and they called it something different back then, and worked in a variety of support, marketing, and sales roles. I worked in tech support in Charlottesville, and then was an assistant product manager, and then ran a field territory. One of the fun things I had to do with Wonderware was, circa 1990, my boss came to me and says, "Hey, you know, we're losing sales all the time to this Wonderware thing. What is this?" And I trotted in a PC from home, put a demo version of Wonderware on it, and showed him what Windows was. And it was an eye-opening experience. And so I go all the way back to Wonderware in the very early days, just in a different angle than John. After that, I worked for Semtech, who is GE's second largest distributor. And that experience was really where the idea of Software Toolbox came about, because working in a distributor that was growing fast, quadrupled in size in a 4-year period, I saw what it was like for Mindshare. I had accounts. I was also the marketing director of the company. And you know, the Mindshare of a distributor with feet on the street really has to be focused on products that economically make sense. And what I found was I'd go out to sell one of our core products, and I would need some third-party add-in. And make a phone call and wait. And a week later, I'd finally hear back from the developer. Well, my proposal was due 6 days ago. So I started seeing that more and more and quickly realized, gee, these are good products. They're missing part of the infrastructure. So as Jeannie said, that's the idea. That's where it came from. I have an engineering background like many of you as SIs, and while I was working with GE and Semtech, also did a master's degree in business. One of the things I'm passionate about over and over again is customer service. I've experienced it on all sides of the coin, and it's just something I feel is really important, and it permeates our culture and everything we do here at Software Toolbox. So with that, I'm going to let John continue on. I'll talk with you more in a little bit. Take it away, John.
So we'll talk a little bit about where the idea for factory widgets came from, and came from customers. Good ideas usually come from them, and doing some project work for a couple of customers where we were implementing HMIs and manufacturing portals and historians and dashboards. We got the request from a customer that said, this is great for our customers, for our operations personnel, and everybody in the company understands the value for them, but they're too complicated, they provide too much information, and frankly, they're too expensive to justify for the management, sometimes called casual users, but management users, back office people who want to keep an eye on one or two parameters of manufacturing without having to have the full-up system on their machines. And so the request literally came, can you show our managers production key performance indicators in something like a widget? And we thought that was an interesting idea, and the answer is yes. And after extensive grilling of potential customers, of potential resellers, and doing some prototyping, the answer said, yeah, we're going to do it. And we'll talk a little bit more about why we thought that was a good thing. So the product we bring into market is called Factory Widgets, and I'll show you a little bit more about them and the timing in a bit. Very simple, very elegant little tools. Well, what are they? They're manufacturing KPIs that reside on a PC's desktop, just like a weather widget or a stock gadget, and they don't require a browser or a client to run. And they get their data from production and automation systems. They can get it directly from the Wonderware historian or via OPC from any OPC server, which is where the majority of the data sources come from. And that can be from hardware or software. If there's an OPC server available for that data source, we can talk to it. And there are some tools from Software Toolbox that allow you to get data from databases and systems and even Excel spreadsheets to bring them into an OPC server. So the data sources are many and varied. How much do they cost? Well, they're 5 factory widgets of any type, and it's about $495, and additional widgets are available for $75 a piece. I'll do a really quick demo, so I'm going to exit PowerPoint for a moment, and you should see a desktop with something that says plant runtime and see some colorful objects on the screen there, and these are factory widgets. John, can you be my wingman and verify that they're visible?
Yes, sir, they are.
Okay, thank you. So just like a weather widget, which you can see moving around, and this is a standard Windows gadget from the Windows Gadget Gallery, the factory widgets reside on a desktop. You can change their size and put them in any position on the screen, and they provide a view into manufacturing data that resides right on the desktop. If one gets your attention, let's say, gee, my production rate seems to be fluctuating more than normal, what's that all about? If you click on it, it can browse to any web page that you've configured into it, and if you have a published report, whether it be downtime, production trend, whatever, an instruction page, video page, it can browse to any web page.
Looks great.
Another neat feature of factory widgets is the ability to be always on top. So I'm going to open up some software that we all use in the course of a day's work, and so what do we spend our time in our days? And our customers, certainly our management, they spend it in Word, they spend it in Excel, and they spend it in Outlook. And they probably won't have the real estate available on their desk to pop open a separate application to keep an eye on the manufacturing KPIs, use a portal, dashboard, whatever. But you can see now that this widget appears to be glowing through from the background, and so you can keep an eye on it. And gee, that's causing me reason to be concerned. You can focus on it and click on it and call up a web page. Another feature of or not feature, but a component of the system is a widget server, which facilitates the communication with the data sources. And you can see here we have several that talk to OPC and get information from historians. And you can view which widgets are configured and in use by who, et cetera. And you can do license and use management from here. So it is a client-server system, but again, it's a very simple and lightweight one. So that's the plug. If you want to know more, we'll certainly like to talk to you offline, or you can go to factorywidgets.com to learn more. I'll go back to PowerPoint now. That was the really quick demo. Let me move some widgets off the screen here. So anyway, we got the feedback from the customer, we got the idea from the customer, we shopped it. Says, this sure looks like we have something good here. But a good idea does not necessarily mean good business. We can all think of some great flops that have been out there that seem like a pretty good idea, and New Coke being the one that I remember from several years ago now. I've been in the software business, and I've been there and I've done it, and knowing the effort it takes to do it is not trivial, and being a systems integrator where you're focused on doing project work, to be able to dedicate the resources of time, money, and people to do it is something you really have to give a lot of thought to, and it better be a darn good opportunity. And again, we got the idea from an end user customer, so it's not from a bunch of engineers sitting around drinking Dr. Pepper and eating ding-dongs, come up with a great technical solution to a problem that people might not have. I've done that, guilty. The user interest was very high. We went to some user conferences and shopped it there, and the question that always came back was, how much does it cost? When can I get it? And then to me, as a salesperson with a big sales background, when the potential reseller interest was extremely high based upon some feedback at some sales conferences for vendors, it's one thing for somebody to say, I'd like to buy it. It's another thing in our industry to get somebody interested enough to sell it, and that's probably the bigger challenge of the two. And it passed the Software Toolbox objective scrutiny. They've got a good business. They've been around for many years. They've got a good, solid product and a good reputation, and they don't take on a software partner lightly. It has to meet their vision and their goals for the company, and again, they want to maintain and keep that reputation. So to pass their scrutiny was a very solid indicator that we might have something good on our hands here. They do a really good job. I had to take a week off and breathe deep. Just kidding, John.
All right.
So we said, okay, let's do it. And so after all that and a rock, paper, scissors decision, we went ahead with the project. So why did we pick Software Toolbox? This is your slide, John. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Well, I put the graphic up about guy with a headache because, at the end of the day, nobody buys anything unless they have pain, some type of pain. It could be physical, mental, financial, operational, quality. There has to be pain. And this kind of ties back into why the company was even started. And I'm going to talk about this from three angles. The first is the pain for distributors in working with a third-party product. As John said, he owned one. I was on the management team of one, and it's that issue of mind share, what's the complexity of the product versus how much money do I get for it. We all know when a distributor has feet on the street salespeople, that costs money, and you really don't need them running around trying to sell low-priced items unless they're going into an account to sell a lot of them. The distributors typically have core products, and they're going to give their love to those core big automation vendors first. That's reality. Remember, I worked for one of them, and it was one of my challenges always to make sure my distributor was giving my product mind share. Then I crossed the fence on the other side and got to feel what it felt like sitting on the other side of the table. And the other thing is a distributor needs a product to be complete. It's got to be solid, and because it's a product. It can't be something that somebody has to run out and do a lot of install on and work on if it's a low-priced product. They often add a lot of value on their core products to complete it, but the price points usually justify it. If I'm an end-user customer or a system integrator, well, again, I expect the product to be reasonably complete. If I'm an SI, sure, I want to add some value, but at the same time, I'm not interested in burning up billable hours, or worse, having to get into non-billable hours because the product I bought to use on my project isn't complete. I'm sure all of you have experienced that. If you've been in the industry any time at all, you've been through it. Completeness is about having support, documentation. Can I get in and evaluate it? I want to trust the vendor I'm working with. Are they going to be here tomorrow? I put this thing in at my client. I want to be doing business with that client for 10 years. And I'm going to pick people to work with who I know are going to be around. You know, I lived that experience. I had some big SI clients that I worked with, and they taught me that very, very clearly early on in my career, 20 years ago, that don't sell me something that, you know, it's going to make me look bad in front of my customer, because that's my bread and butter as an SI. And at the end of the day, to be profitable, an SI needs somebody they can find it easy to do business with. They've got enough to do and enough challenges of being an SI. I've been to your all's executive conferences. I've sat in on the sessions where you all have executive owner group therapy about the challenges, and I shake my head and go, wow, glad you're in that business and figured out how to make money at it, because I'm not sure how I would. But you're good at what you're good at. We're good at what we're good at. For developers, and this is why you came, is maybe you're thinking about becoming a developer. You've got the resources issue. You've got to be able to provide tech support. You know, there's experience with making products. A lot of times they have a good idea but don't know, is the market big enough? Can I get to the prospect base? One of the things I ran into when I was selling core products like HMI SCADA systems, PLCs, motion vision, is when I needed a third-party product, oftentimes the person who created it was also off doing project work. And I would call because I had questions, needed pricing, had things I was trying to figure out, and I'd leave a message. And like I said earlier, it'd be a week before I get a call back. Hey, man, I'm sorry I didn't call you back. I was out on a project doing a big startup. How can I help you? Okay, well, I understand that. That's all fine and well, but you know, people who are going to sell products, they expect to be able to call and get an answer now, or go on a website and get an answer now. If something's not clear, be able to talk with somebody. And a call back in a week didn't cut it for me when I was the customer and the distributor. And I'm sure when you're an SI, you know, put on your customer hat, it doesn't cut it. But that presents a different staffing challenge and a different structural challenge for you as an SI if you're going to decide to get into the product business. That's all part of why Software Toolbox exists, is because we're good at doing all those things. And I'm going to let John Nichols speak to that. You know, for us, we're the cure to that pain. We're a single-stop shop. We're channel aware and friendly. My background is working at a distributor. It's real easy when I'm talking to channels to say, look, I understand your pains. I lived them for 4 years. We have you have to have access to the channel, access to the customers. We have that. We've been doing this 15 years. We have a lot of relationships with a lot of large vendors in this industry. We're in their partner programs. We have those relationships. A lot of you have relationships with the big vendors too, because you're in their SI programs. Our relationships at the Software Toolbox side are a little different angle, because they're at the product side. Our offering covers a lot of different bases. I'm not going to read through all these bullet points. The idea for you to hear is realize there's a lot of things you have to do. John Nichols is going to talk about that from his experience of having done this with us. And you know, there's a lot of pieces we bring in, whether it's marketing, advertising, documentation review. We've gone so far as we've co-licensed or licensed code back in John's case that's helped with some of the product. We've built an infrastructure. One of the things that we're proud of is our CRM system that we use, and have been building piece by piece and using off-the-shelf products for that for 15 years. And John's gotten to have some special looks inside and through our relationship that we have with him and see how it works. And it really gives the big company infrastructure without the cost associated with it. Because if you think of us like a cooperative, that cost is spread out over everything we do. So that's enough of me telling you what we do and what our offerings are. I'm going to turn things back over to my partner, John, and I think you'll see from his experience and learn more about the details. So, John, it's your turn.
Great. Thanks, John. So let's talk a bit about what it takes to develop commercial off-the-shelf software. First of all, you've got to dedicate the resources, and they've got to come from somewhere. When we started this venture, it was about 18 months ago, and like many of you out there, we had a bit of a lull in our business. This recession was kicked in pretty hard, and people were kind of standing on the sidelines trying to figure out how to spend their money. And so we had some time where we could devote to training and R&D. And so we started out with one of our very gifted engineer developers developing the factory widget prototypes, and not only is he technically gifted, but he's artistically gifted to give them, you know, a pleasing look and feel. And then that darn problem of a whole bunch of business hit the door, and we had to, he was billable, so we had to make use of him on billable projects. So you have to make the decision on where's the line between using an otherwise billable employee or investing that person's time in a business venture that has yet to prove itself. So we did because our people were so billable and busy, we utilized contractors, and that worked out very well. We used two to start, and one was put the foundation of the software in place, and he was very artistically talented himself. And then he hit the limit of his capabilities. We brought in another one who was just a heads-down developer with no wasted motions, and we actually ended up hiring that contractor as an employee to finish development on the widgets, or well, they're never finished, but to continue development on the widgets. And then when the product was brought to market and the intense development abated a bit, we put him on projects, and he's also billable as well. So we're getting some of that investment back, and his development skills for a commercial product are equally valuable in the other work that we do. We utilize Software Toolbox for input and feedback. They're constant sounding boards, and they've got so much experience in the industry that we're nuts not to listen to them. They have some code that's embedded in our product that we have licensed for use, and it's all covered contractually. We'll talk about that in a minute. You have to have an investment in platforms. We've got several real, hardware server platforms for servers, as well as a whole lot of virtual machines for testing. So there's an investment there. We had quite a bit of it in place in the course of our engineering work, but we had to supplement it. Then there's collaboration with our teams, both inside Apex and externally with Software Toolbox. We have, when we're in intense development mode, we have daily scrums, which are a 5 to 7 minute meeting where we sit down with the developers and review what happened yesterday in their work, what accomplishments they made, what they're going to do today, what they need for today and tomorrow. And it's a very, very quick, lightning round kind of meeting that we don't detract from the development process. We had weekly status updates with Apex and Software Toolbox to make sure we're all on the same page on all the various initiatives required to bring a product to market. We use a tool called Redmine. It's it's an open source system you can get for bug tracking and issue tracking on the development side. And we use Basecamp, which is a collaboration, document management, task management. It's kind of like a cheap subscription-based, easy-to-use SharePoint without all the overhead and time it takes to get SharePoint functioning properly. We had both of these up and running and doing their thing in a day. Let's talk about the differences and similarities between a product and an engineering project. So when you bring a product to market, you're building it to a specification which has come from user feedback and other knowledgeable input, but you're building it to a specification. When you do a project, you're implementing that project to a scope that typically has been mutually defined with our clients. When you bring a product to market, a mass volume product, as we hope this will be, you're serving many masters. You've got hundreds and hopefully thousands and more customers out there that we have to build a product that meets their needs. You're typically serving one master in terms of one customer company when you're doing the project. The factory widgets or any commercial software has to be a one-size-fits-most to hit the 80% of the needs in the market out there. When we do a project, we have the ability and luxury and need to tailor it specifically to that client's needs. I would say factory widgets, but commercial software always has bugs, and so do our project software. Commercial software always needs updating, and a project can be considered finished. I put it in quotes because nothing is ever completely baked, but it's good enough for people to sign off and they can use it. You might get some support and follow-on work or warranty work later. But in general, there's a finish line to a project versus on a product. And then you always have that concern, will anybody buy my product? You already sold the project when you're in systems integration work. And when will I get my return on investment? And if the project goes well, we'll get our ROI on the project sometime by before or by the end of the project, and that happens most of the time. A commercial product has the potential for residual income, and in the case of a project, you need to do a project to get income, and your residual comes, sort of a residual comes in the form of a repeat business from a happy customer. Let's talk about the big part of the pie here, the not development aspects of development. I don't want to minimize the importance of proper development. I mean, it's a skill and a talent and a discipline that has to be done properly. You have to have development skills to get the product built according to the specification and get it done, you know, within an acceptable time frame. Not want to minimize that, but it is only about a third or less maybe of the overall project. First thing you do, you have some legal things you have to sort out. We formed another business entity. Most states you can build a business entity online in about 15 minutes, and then you have all the other stuff. You typically need to have an attorney review everything to make sure you've got all the bits and pieces put in. We formed our Apex Manufacturing, our SI business, is an LLC, and we formed another LLC, same ownership, same ownership structure, but it is an LLC. That takes a few minutes or a little longer to get that going online, but then you've got to go through legal review and banking and a variety of other things. So there's a time and a small expense component there. We entered into a vendor agreement with Software Toolbox. John Weber and I spent several days ironing out the details of that, and since we're both pretty easy to get along with, it wasn't too onerous of a process. John, when do you want my firstborn male child?
Trade you a preteen daughter for.
Let's keep our own. Anybody that you work with, whether it be a potential business partner, a contractor, a beta site, anybody that has access to confidential information that you want to keep confidential, you need a non-disclosure agreement. We have probably a dozen out there with this project. The intellectual property, who owns it? Well, that's defined in the end user license agreement, or the EULA. That is that 10,000 word document where we hit click, 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 accept. And there are trademarks and patents involved. We don't have a patent. One thing I've learned in my experience in the software business at Incuity and Wonderware was you don't patent anything just for the vanity of it. You patent it because it's strategic to protect intellectual property and the financial value of your company. So we don't have anything considered patentable inside a factory widget. However, we did trademark it, and that took about a year to get done. We used LegalZoom.com to do it. I had a local attorney quote me $2,000 to do it, and I did it myself with LegalZoom for about $750. And it took about a year, and we just got the registered approval. So it's a registered trademark. That's the circle R. Just a little bit of advice: if you are bringing something to market, as soon as you can, start using the TM symbol, which is not registered, but it's kind of a common law stamp that says I'm using this publicly in the course of business, and you want to document when you started using that. And so I've done that.
Well, in fact, to get your registration, you have to show proof that you've been using it commercially.
Yes.
File your registration.
So it's an easy process to get it registered, provided that there's no other conflicting trademark on which you're infringing. It's just, it takes time just because the Patent and Trademark Office is a busy agency. You need to secure the domain names. When Software Toolbox and Apex decided to go forward, the first thing John Weber did is he went out and secured every permutation of factory widget domain name that he could, so that nobody's going to camp on that and hold it for ransom later, or use it in a competing business or in a business with the same name that's confusing. In fact, there's a company out there that makes little clock and weather widgets for Android phones that calls themselves factory widgets, although they have nothing to do with manufacturing or factories. That's caused some confusion out there. So I've been firing warning shots across their bow that they're infringing on our trademark. So these things will happen. And so far nobody's come to us and said we're infringing on theirs, but that's part of the trademark process is you do a lot of research and to ensure that there is no infringement. When you're using contractors for development work, in many states, and maybe you all know this, but in many states, unless you have a specific IP assignment in your agreement with them, they own the intellectual property. And I found that out after the fact, but we happened to have a nice guy as one of our contractors who didn't hold it for ransom. We got those things straightened out. But just be aware of that. They own the IP. Now, if they're an employee of yours, it's the company's IP. Now, that's the case in most states. I can't speak to all of them. Then, of course, we incorporate some Software Toolbox technology. We utilize some OPC and some licensing code and functions, and that's all covered under an IP assignment agreement in our vendor agreement. Quality assurance testing. We took some testing templates from the Software Toolbox uses and modified them for our testing purposes. So they're a very complete, thorough document that says what's the expected behavior of this function, what's the actual behavior, and green means it passed, red in our form means it didn't pass, and there's no yellow on the screen there, but if it was yellow, it says kind of, sort of, and go back and make it green. We did all kinds of in-house testing. I've spent the last, I can't tell you how many months developing carpal tunnel and mouse finger syndrome from testing. I did intensive testing for months. I still do, testing every day, just likewise intensive. We hired a contractor to do the testing, and also a person to do our testing. She developed or modified and used the test templates. She did a lot of the testing, as well as the documentation, which we'll touch on in a moment here. Our engineers, we had everybody having them running on their desktop. Not that we wanted to consume their billable time to be testers, but just to keep an eye on it to see if anything obvious was, or they could stumble across, was needed fixing. And we came across quite a bit. Software Toolbox they did a bit of intensive testing in the early pre-release days, but now they're pretty much keep them running. And they use them practically actually to monitor some of their systems every day anyway, so they give us good feedback. And we outsourced it. We didn't outsource it to another country. You may have know of a company called Adecco, which I always thought was just a temporary service employee provider. They actually, in Boise, Idaho, where Apex is located, they have a fully staffed IT infrastructure and fully loaded IT infrastructure where they could test on all the server and all the desktop environments needed testing, and they could test thousands of widgets. And they put a team of people on it, and we had them test the heck out of it for, I want to say, about 2 weeks. And they exposed some weaknesses that we went ahead and fixed. So if you have anything that needs that kind of testing, you might look into Adecco. They did a very good job for us. And then we had 2 beta sites, a Pepsi bottling plant and a Boise Cascade lumber mill in our area. So a lot of testing took place there, and got a lot of good feedback from the beta users. So in order to have a bulletproof software product that's used in an industrial environment where the expectations are quite high that it's going to be robust and stable and flexible, we did a lot of testing, and that discipline and the feedback really was largely attributable to what we learned from Software Toolbox.
Well, an important point I want to add on, I think with this project, John, having the 2 beta sites was really, really helpful to complement the traditional processes, because it kept us from being totally inward focused. It allowed us to hear that voice of the user. And sometimes if you're an SI and you're blessed enough that the idea came from something you were doing with a client, that client's willing to work through the beta site. It helps with the quality, but also helps when you get to market, because then you've already got a success under your belt. You know it's working in a real production site, not just on my desk.
Yeah, and that was invaluable. Documentation. I'm proud of the product overall, how it turned out and how it's operating, the quality and stability, et cetera, usability. That's all good. I'm really especially proud of the documentation, because I know we've all had access to really bad documentation. And this turned out fantastic from my opinion. And if you get the opportunity to download a free trial or something, take a look at the documentation. I hope you'll find it as thorough and usable and logically laid out as we do. Your feedback would be very interesting to hear. So documentation, again, we had a contractor do that. She's a technical writer, a freelance technical writer, and I would recommend that you hire one of those if you don't have one on staff, or hire them as a contractor. Marketing. It's a joint effort between Apex and Software Toolbox. In my background, I've got the marketing skills and talents and experience anyway, and the contacts, etc., but I don't have the time. And therefore, Software Toolbox, who has the same or better contacts and experience with the industry analysts, with the marketing, with the various media outlets, with all the other industry influencers, plus they've got the skills and talents and experience themselves that have proven successful in their business. It's a great combination. So, but I could do it all. I'm choosing not to because of just, again, the time and the expense to bring it to market. The go-to-market strategy it's a Software Toolbox product. They've got the brand equity. It's got a great reputation. They're known for super products. When we were thinking about bringing this to market, everybody who I talked to said, don't pass go, or pass go, whatever. Don't stop anywhere. Go right to Software Toolbox, talk to John Weber, and see if he wants to take it on. Having been a reseller of their products and a user and a customer of their products over the years, that was absolutely made sense because they don't sell any junk and they take really good care of their customers. So that was really the key element of our marketing, is to be a Software Toolbox product. So we're a little tiny Apex down in the corner whenever you see any of the documentation or marketing materials. We have a FactoryWidgets.com website. John and his team did some great search engine optimization, SEO, so that when people Google on the various keywords, and the chances of us coming up are quite high. And marketing communications, MarCom is the abbreviation for that. They do press releases. They work with Automation.com, Automation World, Control Engineering, all the media that are out there. So we have a lot of press releases and article placement going on. We do regular e-newsletters to the variety of categories of potential users of our product. We do ongoing webinars. We attend and display at user conferences, and we'll be at the executive conference in Florida in the spring for CSIA. And these are a little bit out of order. We publish success stories, and we've got a couple up on our website right now you can go see. And we do videos that we publish on YouTube. And we use social networks, primarily Twitter and Facebook. And so there's a lot of marketing going on, and again, it's a joint effort, but we're really leveraging the experience base and contact base and infrastructure of the Software Toolbox team for that. Sales. Someday we'd like to sell some. That's the whole point. And channels to market need to be developed. And again, by working with Software Toolbox, we've got a great channel to market with distributors and resellers and a direct model. It's kind of a hybrid channel to market, but we're trying to cover all the bases to be able to easily take orders and service customers' needs. So resellers, distributors, we will be selling to OEMs of manufacturing hardware and software and actual machinery itself. We work with systems integrators and VARs. Software Toolbox can take orders direct, and then they have mechanisms for protecting the interests of their resellers, et cetera, should there be a joint opportunity in place. You have to have the right features and functionality, and so again, the user feedback, the help from Software Toolbox, it's got to do things that people want, it's got to do them well, it has to do it easily, it has to do it reliably, and you can sell a bad product, but we want to sell a good product, and so there's a lot that goes into having the right product in order to sell it. And then the pricing's right, and you saw the pricing is quite affordable. And one of our key strategies in our pricing is that it can be sold under the capital expenditure signature level and can easily be purchased on a departmental credit card. In fact, we have one customer that buys 10 a month on his credit card. Customer service. Again, this is really where Software Toolbox lends a great helping hand. The order fulfillment. I set up order fulfillment systems and other systems at a previous software gig, and that is hard and expensive. Yeah, it's huge, and that infrastructure is in place, and so we're happy to, share the rewards with Software Toolbox in exchange for their contribution and investment into this project. The licensing is no trivial task. Any of you who've been customers of licensing know that it can be daunting. We have a very simple and easy to administer and use and understand licensing system as opposed to other places I've been in my career. And tech support, their unparalleled tech support, quick response, great incident tracking and system, and absolutely fantastic. And they administer support agreements. Those of us who've been on the recipient side or on the vendor side of support agreements, I have a personal vision of what hell might be like, and it's going to be a support agreement administrator. And so that's probably how I'll spend eternity. Why did we partner specifically with Software Toolbox? Time to market. Like I said, I have the ability, and we had all kinds of money and time. We could have hired a team and built the infrastructure and done all that, but we wanted to get this product on the market quickly, and there was this partner in place, ready to go, and that was the primary reason. We wanted to hit a window of opportunity before it closed. And of course, the marketing we talked about, they have the sales infrastructure and relationships and reseller and other channels in place. Customer service and support, again, they're unparalleled. The mentoring, very, very valuable. Here they have been selling and bringing products and developing products themselves to market. And even though I've got the background, you want a good, fresh experience perspective on doing that, and they were invaluable there on the development, the processes, the workflows, the features and functionality. I can't tell you how many hours John and I did by WebEx, Visio, flow charting, and not just John, but John and his team on making sure that we had the right functionality in the product. And usability, of course. So they are really instrumental in the orange part of the pie there. So what a trip it's been. Take a walk down memory lane here. This product became a twinkle in our eye in May 2009. That's when the customer said, could you do something like a widget? And that's when we took it and ran with it. We started development when we finally made the decision to pursue this. We started real development in October of 2009. We had it in beta sites in January of 2010. Our first product release came out in May of 2010, and we sold our first product the day after. And we had actually had a commitment during the beta cycle prior to release, but we had a customer poised and ready to buy it. We added some load and save capability of the product we didn't have in the first release in June. So a month later, basically, we had a second release that added some much needed functionality. The second major release where we enabled OPC connectivity, which really opens the door as far as the market opportunity. In September, we added a new widget called a reader board and Windows 2008 functionality in December. And we've had small orders from day 2 after release. I need to update this bullet. We received 2 large orders in January, and we have many more in the pipeline from a few global manufacturers who are looking at enterprise-wide licenses. So we're very optimistic and encouraged by that. And the interest is growing, and the orders are coming in slower than we'd hoped, but fast enough for us still to be optimistic. And we're currently prototyping, developing, assessing, doing factory widgets for mobile computing platforms, Android and Apple specifically. And like I said, we're still optimistic. This is starting to feel good. You know, when you bring something like this to market, you hit some speed bumps that sometimes can be discouraging, or it can be a long time between orders, but things are starting to accelerate, so we're feeling pretty good about it. Lessons learned, and these are probably not specific to bringing a product to market. They probably could be considered life lessons. Have a thick skin and an open mind. People are going to call your baby ugly. Whether it's ugly or not, they're going to call it ugly. You just have to expect that. By the same token, you need to have an open mind. There's good suggestions coming in all the time, and it's easy to become jaded to them when you're bombarded with them. But you need to have a good filter, and you need to have an objective filter and listen to them. So our product, the design of the product and functionality is about 95% based upon input from users and potential users. You have to be objective. Have realistic expectations. Take your forecast for what it's going to cost to bring it to market and triple it. Take the amount of time and when you're going to get your return on investment and triple it. And then double both. And then and you might be close. And this isn't just for amateurs. I've seen this with the big software companies I've been with. The venture capitalists, I've helped raise venture capital for one of my previous employers. And these guys are hardened, seasoned investors, and they still end up putting on their rose-colored glasses and believing unrealistic things. So
you just have to take in mind the nature of the people, the business, the industry we work in. People buy stuff for automation control, and they put it in and expect to have a 10-year plus life cycle on it. So people don't just upgrade to the latest version of Windows because it's out and it's cool.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of our business, and there's good business reasons why they do that. It's not that they're not interested. There's financial reasons. But, I like to share with people it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because oftentimes you can see things coming from the commercial software industry in advance of when they get to our industry. But it's a curse because if you're going to be on the leading edge and have something new and different, you've got to have patience and the pockets to be able to work it through and work it through to success. And when people come to me and ask, well, how long, before you see significant sales, I usually tell them, not before 6 months. This isn't like the internet commercials of 2000 where, the UPS commercial and somebody put their website up and click and showed the orders thing piling up. We'd all love to have that. I've been doing this 15 years. I've never seen it happen. They just don't, pile up the day that the product releases. And that's even if you do all sorts of beta testing and editorial in advance of release. It's just not how it works. But if you have that patience, then once the machine gets going, it starts kicking out cash.
Yep, I've seen this in the early days of Wonderware was a good example. It got off to an incredibly slow start and it turned into an industry leader. And but there were some painful, slow moments in that timeline. Know when to hold and fold. We're still in the holding and keeping going mode. Plan for the worst, hope for the best, or work for the best is probably more accurate. And why is this called Part 1? Like I said early on, we'll give you an update in late 2011 if you're interested, and to see where we are and what our success is. And we'll also be at the CSIA Executive Conference, so stop by and touch bases with John and myself and kick a tire. And this is how you can get a hold of us.
Great.
Anybody has any questions, I'm happy to entertain them offline and at your convenience. And with that, I'm going to hand things back over to Jeannie.
Okay. Now, I have unmuted the few phone lines we had. If you have questions you'd like to pose via the chat and Q&A panel, you're welcome to go ahead and put those in, folks, and we'll try to answer those.
Well, while we're waiting for questions. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Frank Reardon from DMC. Fantastic presentation. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
This is for John at Factory Widgets. Share with me what you will. I'm hoping for everything, expecting nothing. Hard dollars, soft dollars. How much did you invest, and what's your expectation of actually realizing that a positive return on your investment?
I expect to hit, we've probably got, we've got a year and a half of man hours and some marketing costs and some legal fees. It's probably, we're probably into it we're under $500,000. I don't want to give the exact amount, but it's a significant amount, but I've seen a lot more being spent. We expect ROI at somewhere between 18 to 36 months after the product's been released, frankly, and I just don't know yet.
Are you realizing any project work as a function of pushing the product?
Yeah, we are. It's interesting. In fact, we have a presentation on the Factory Widgets Toolbox, factorywidgets.com tool, merging the two companies here. The factorywidgets.com website that talks about some things that a systems integrator might realize from that. But yes, the answer is yes. We're getting follow-on work, existing additional work at customer sites. Not only just installing the factory widgets, which is not a huge service revenue generator, but the pull-through of other project work. So you might check out a video on factorywidgets.com if you're interested in that.
Sure. So does that allow you to put a different rationalization hat on and make this this investment feel a little bit better because of the pull-through project work, or is it still you know, you look at it as its own P&L center, if you will? I mean, I guess it's not just its P&L center. You've got a separate company for it.
We have a separate company with its own P&L, but it has it does have incremental revenue potential, service revenue potential for our systems integration side of the business. Gives you new reasons to talk to new people, something new to show. You can put a factory widget on a manager's desktop and he can click on it and see all the detail in an underlying report that's been published from a downtime report or something like that. So, and as a systems integrator, you can increase your visibility at the upper floors by using that as a vehicle. So we think it has great potential to increase revenues for systems integrators, and we're starting to see that ourselves.
How did you separate out the cost for Apex software when there were, I'm assuming, Apex manufacturing engineers working on the project, or did you actually apply those costs directly to Apex software? How did the finances work out that way?
Yeah, we have a tracking system we use for project work. We just set that up as a separate project, and we allocate the time to that P&L. Do
you have a separate set of books for that company, or is it just Apex manufacturing?
It's separate. Yeah, it's two companies. You need to for variety of business practice and tax reasons. So.
Yeah, one entity has to pay the other entity, even if you're just taking it out of one pocket into the other.
Understood.
Otherwise, you just create all sorts of tax and legal issues down the road if you ever wanted to sell one of them, or if there was a tax audit, et cetera.
Actually, can you give me a little bit more information on the necessity, besides the branding point of view, of why you actually needed a separate company versus just keeping it under one umbrella?
Oh, I think one of the major reasons is hopefully, we all have an exit strategy, or as the venture capitalists say, a liquidity event in mind, and it could be that somebody might want to buy that company, and it just makes it easier to not have it entangled with the other company. That's one of the rationale. It's just I've always found it easier just to compartmentalize. We have two different models to market. We have two different functions that we perform, and my software development company, rents basically from our engineering company, as a contractor. So we're able to keep things clean and separate that way. To me, it's just a matter of organization and compartmentalization. That's probably my primary motivation for doing it.
Yeah, the other one I've heard, John, is that you could create some asset protection in that if somebody were to, if you were end up in a suit, a legal situation with one part of your business, in theory, and I'm not a lawyer, can't dispense legal advice, you're violating.
I understand where you're going on that.
Yeah, but you're protecting it. So if somebody sues one part of your business, you may have this other part of your business that they can't get at, and come seize those assets. Or at least if they do, they're going to have to work more and pay their lawyers more. And it cuts both ways. It could be something on the software side, could be some on the services side. You just don't know.
Sure.
And I've bought two companies, and it certainly would have been easier on both of them if they had had things separated. I bought ones where I had to buy the assets out because it was so entangled. We just had to extract the assets when we bought them.
Sure. Very impressed with what Software Toolbox provides to the software vendors. That's very illuminating to me. How much does that cost?
We do the services that we provide, or they provide for us after we sign the agreement. They get basically a cut of the profits, and it's about, depends on the nature of the sale. It's anywhere roughly 40% of the profit. I'll ballpark it at that.
And it varies by situation what we're expected to do. You know.
Can I clarify, when you say profit, do you mean revenue?
Yeah.
Because I could drive my profit down to zero.
Yes, thank you, of the revenue.
Yeah. No, we usually make most of our money off of the profits from selling the product. You know, depending on the situation, what we view as perceived risk, what we view as the perceived opportunity. You know, sometimes there's some upfront investment that's made by the software development partner with us, you know, to pay for some of the upfront work we do. But at the same time, we also, Software Toolbox invests. You know, we do things as part of the process where we're taking some risk things are going to sell. We've got capital at risk too, and it's all about working out as business partners a sharing of that risk that you're both comfortable with. Sometimes we'll do things where if there is some upfront payment for services, there's some agreement that when certain revenue milestones are met, that some of that money flows back the other way. It's something you have to be able to go into it, be able to have a good, solid business conversation as partners, you know, to work out what's going to be best for the relationship. I've done this 30-something times, and you know, I think in John's case, it helped. He'd been through this on the product side, so there were a lot of things I didn't have to explain. I think anybody that's attended this webinar now, there'd be a lot I won't have to explain to you, having heard it.
Well, it's like I said. I mean, you know, you're just not a like a .com order fulfillment house. There's a lot more that just didn't realize that the Software Toolbox provides. That's fairly impressive.
I could get rid of, if I was just a .com with Susie Q's filling orders, I could probably get rid of 80% of my staff. And
you should do that.
Company,
and without those employees, your business is so much easier, right?
Oh yeah, and I can also plan on all my 15 years of investment being gone in about a year.
There you go.
You know, we experienced it during the .com boom. There were 3 companies, I can't even remember what their names were, that popped up between 1998 and 2000 trying to copy the concept, and some of our developer partners signed on with them. None of them lasted because they all thought it was a build it and they could come, and they provided no tech support. You couldn't call and talk to anybody, and those developer partners are still partners of ours, and I know they never sold anything through those channels. The technical expertise in the whole infrastructure is key, and I appreciate Frank that you recognize that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's I would almost think that the pie that was shown with the development costs versus the other stuff, that the development cost is too big.
And that really was a kind of a combination overall effort of time and cost and
no, I understand
and it was
that.
A swag too.
Exactly. You know, I mean, it's the whole you know, oh, I could just, you know, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to my door. I don't think so. Here's a question, John Weber. You know, you mentioned that some of the vendors had tried to sell through different channels. Does Software Toolbox get an exclusive, or how does that work with, or John Nichols, can you sell directly off of your website?
No, we don't. We sell everything through Software Toolbox.
John Weber will tell you I don't require that, but we're certainly willing to invest more, you know, in the hopes of getting the return when we know that we have that.
So in the case of when we sell factory widgets, we actually buy them from Software Toolbox. We want to keep everything clean and straightforward and have the right practice and precedence and everything there. So if we do, we haven't done it yet, but we intend to sell some on occasion. And if our local distributor doesn't provide it, because we work closely with the local distributors who can sell them, we'll sell it, but we'll buy from Software Toolbox just like anybody else would.
Are your distributors buying them through through Software Toolbox as well?
Yes. Yeah, every sale goes through Software Toolbox, whether it be from an end user going direct or from a reseller buying and reselling, or an SI buying direct, or you know, as an SI, you can, if you have a relationship with a local Factory Widgets reseller, buy it from them, and then they'll buy it from Software Toolbox.
Safe assumption that the distributors are getting a discount off of retail to what they're paying? Okay.
Oh yeah, that's all part of the discussions that, you know, when we're putting it together and putting together the business plan, we figure out, okay, you know, how's this product going to work? Is it going to depend on going through distributor channels too? You know, one of the things the distributors like about working with us is that it gives them a single-stop shop. You know, for them to be effective with the mind share they can put on these type of products, they know I can go to one place and they're going to cover me on all these different things. So it's more time efficient for them.
And
versus them dealing with you directly and John directly and 3 other companies directly.
Right. How do you, speaking of that, how do you handle, setting up territories where, people can buy direct or, through distribution? Does the distribution feel like they're getting cut out of a deal that the person down the street just says, you know what, I'm not going to buy it from you, I'm just going to buy it from Software Toolbox?
Well, there's several ways we deal with that. One is we have mechanisms in place with the distributor where if they've worked an opportunity and that customer decides he's going to come buy it online, we'll turn around and give him his margin right back. That's one thing. And then in terms of setting up the distributors and whether there's territorial overlap or not between distributors, we really look at what makes sense for the product. Is giving someone, a distributor, a exclusive in a territory going to get you the highest amount of sales?
Sure.
And if it is, and you feel they can deliver it, then great, you do that. But if you really realistically don't think that's going to happen, then you have to go into it as 2 adults and say, now look, are you really going to do, what it takes? If I give you an exclusive, I expect you to do boom, boom, boom. Can you really do that? And if they can, great. But if they really in their heart can't, exclusives don't make sense. So I'm not giving you a black and white answer because this isn't a black and white type of problem.
Right. I'm just
case by case basis.
To an extent, I guess maybe my questions are foolish. You guys have been in the business long enough that you've worked through all these questions. So I should assume that the answer is that you take care of the people that are helping in the sales channel.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with asking the question, Frank.
That's one of the reasons I enjoy working with Software Toolbox, having been a distributor and a vendor, is if I come across an opportunity as a reseller, I just let Software Toolbox know. And if the customer says, well, maybe I can go direct for whatever reason, they're going to take care of me as a reseller. And that's one of the long list of the many great reasons, one on the list of those reasons to do business with Software Toolbox.
And I guess part of what I would offer to every distributor is I'll show them. I say, look, here's my business process, and show them how it's actually implemented, how we can go into our systems and mark an opportunity as belonging to them. So that person picks up the phone and calls. My people, when they pull it up in our system, are going to go, well, hold on, I see you've been working with Company X. Okay. And that's important that there's a business process behind it. Anybody can say it. We've systematized it.
Got it. John Nichols, how many people do you have focused on the Apex software now?
Well, let's see. I spend about 2/3 of my time on it, and I spend the other third on the other side of the business. And it depends on the development cycle. We have a developer that's currently probably devoting about 1/3 of his time to Factory Widgets and the other 2/3 to engineering work. So it depends on the development cycle. We're going to be ramping up here pretty soon our prototyping development on mobile Factory Widgets, and so I suspect we'll probably, after about a month, flip him to 2/3 Factory Widgets and 1/3 engineering work, or maybe more on Factory Widgets. Just kind of depends on a lot of factors. But we don't have a lot dedicated to it right now. as an owner of the company, I work for free, as it turns out, so I can devote as much time as appropriate. So.
Sure.
Frank, just out of curiosity, it sounds like maybe with DMC, I've looked at your website, and you guys have some things. Have you tried this before in terms of bringing off-the-shelf product to market versus custom?
Well, it's always the consideration set. I mean, every system integrator wants to be a product company, and I think every product company wants to get into the services business.
And every distributor wants to be a systems integrator, and every systems integrator wants to be a distributor. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All different business models. So
Yeah. So the short answer is kind of, sort of, and we've got things that we, for lack of a better term, have productized. But the real reason that we've done that is that we've got a compelling message that we can bring to our customers, rather than going out to sell the product. I mean, selling a product, that's hard stuff. That is really hard. I don't know how to do it. But this is a compelling thought exercise for us, and whether or not we would really want to take the next step that would require the real heavy lifting of taking something that is a little bit more than a one-off project, and really, instead of productizing, really making a product out of it. So the short answer is we're not naive enough to just think, oh, we've got something great, let's see how it goes. And it's our bigger motivation would be to drive, at least at this point, to drive the engineering revenue.
And that's still the case with Apex. I mean, that's the proven entity. It's a successful business. It's growing, and we're not going to do anything to disrupt that. So we're not changing our stripes. But we're trying something off here on the side to see if it works. And so far, like I said before, we're optimistic. But the fallback is we have Apex Manufacturing Solutions that's doing a good business. So yeah, I was probably of all my partners, I was probably the most reluctant to go down this road because I've been down it. And until we got all the feedback from potential end users, potential resellers, got good feedback from Software Toolbox, I decided to go ahead with it too. And like I say, so far so good.
Sure. All right, gentlemen. Hope to see you guys in Florida. Thank you so much for putting this together and the time. It's definitely more than a little bit of food for thought.
Great. I appreciate your questions.
Look forward to seeing you in Orlando. Thanks, Frank.
Right, take care, guys. Bye.
Well, I haven't seen anything else come over on Q&A and chat, so I think at this point we could probably turn over and go ahead and do your wrap-up, and then I'll Jeannie in.
All right. Well, thank you all for your participation. Thank you to our presenters, John Weber and John Nichols, for your contribution of time and expertise. Today's program was recorded, and it'll be available on the CSIA website shortly. Also, if you happen to have a suggestion for a topic in the future, please let us know, and we'll see about making that happen. Now, as John and John mentioned, they're going to be at our executive conference in April at Universal Studios, Florida. That's April 27th to the 30th. Registration is now available, and you'll find program details and registration information on the CSIA website. Have a productive rest of your week, everyone. Thank you again, and goodbye.